It is effectively impossible to exist in the modern world without having some kind of opinion on Tesla.
Hmm.
Whether you love the cars or you hate the tweets or you just think the rockets are cool, the brand takes up a lot of psychic space. But usually when we talk about Tesla, we're talking about things that move fast.
Hmm.
Today, we are pivoting. We're looking at something totally stationary. We are climbing up onto your roof.
It's a different kind of vehicle in a way.
Wow.
It's just, well, it's one that stays put and drives your entire house.
Exactly. We are talking about the new Tesla solar panels. And I want to be incredibly specific right off the bat here because there's always confusion about this. We are not talking about the solar roof, those individual glass tiles that replace your shingles entirely and cost about as much as a small private island. We are talking about the hardware you bolt on top of your existing roof, specifically the new TSP-415 and TSP-420 models.
Right, the retrofit market. And the big question we are tackling today in this deep dive is pretty straightforward, but the answer is complex. Are they actually worth it? Because with Tesla, you always have to ask how much of this price tag is for the engineering and how much is just the cool factor tax.
To help us answer that, we're pulling from a really comprehensive buyer's guide from Green Attic Roofing. It's titled, Are the New Tesla Solar Panels Worth It? A Practical Buyer's Guide. And honestly, I love that our source material today isn't some tech blog or a gadget review site. It's from roofing experts.
Yeah, that is a crucial distinction. These are the people who actually have to carry these things up a ladder and nail them down. They aren't looking at the software first. They're looking at the waterproofing, the structural integrity, things like that.
So our mission today is to strip away the branding. We are going to look at the raw specs, figure out what's actually happening inside these black rectangles, break down the costs, and see if they make sense for the average homeowner who just wants to keep the lights on.
And what stands out immediately to me in this report is the context of where these things are coming from. For a long time, Tesla's solar approach was, let's call it software first. But these new panels, the TSP series, they represent a real shift toward a domestic supply chain. They're engineered in California and assembled at the Gigafactory in Buffalo, New York.
Which is really interesting because it feels like everyone is trying to bring manufacturing back home right now. It moves the conversation from Silicon Valley gadget to, heavy industrial infrastructure. But let's get into the hardware itself. We have two models here, the TSP-415 and the TSP-420. I'm assuming the numbers just stand for the wattage.
They do. You have 415 watts and 420 watts, respectively. Efficiency-wise, they were sitting at 20.3% and 20.5%. Now, if you follow solar tech, you know those are really solid numbers. They aren't breaking the laws of physics. I mean, lab tests go higher, but for mass market residential use, pushing past 400 watts per panel is a big deal.
It basically means you need fewer panels to hit your energy goals.
Right. Exactly. If you have a smaller roof, or maybe a roof with a lot of dormers and vents in the way, that density really matters. You can pack more power into a much tighter square footage.
Okay, so they're powerful. But looking at the Green Attic Guide, the wattage isn't even the headline. The real aha moment, the thing that separates these from the panels my neighbor installed, say, 5 years ago, seems to be something called cascading cell technology.
Oh, this is where it gets really fascinating. This is the hidden tech inside the panel that actually changes the game for a lot of homeowners.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to me, a solar panel is just a slab of silicon sandwiched in glass. What makes cascading cells so different?
Well, to understand the benefit, you kind of have to understand the flaw in traditional solar panels.
Yeah.
Think about the classic Christmas tree light problem.
Oh man, I know this pain well. One bulb burns out, and the entire strand goes dark.
Ugh.
It's infuriating.
Right. Traditional solar panels are wired in a series string just like that. So if you shade one part of the panel, maybe your chimney casts a shadow, or a tree branch sways in the wind, or even a bird dropping lands in exactly the wrong spot, the electrical flow gets blocked. The output of the entire panel, or a really large section of it, just drops significantly. It creates a bottleneck.
Right, so you lose production from the whole unit just because one tiny corner is in the dark.
Correct. But the Tesla TSP panels use cascading interconnections to create 18 independent power zones.
18. That seems like a lot for one panel.
It is. It's about 3 times more than you find in conventional panels. And what that means for you is redundancy.
So if that chimney shadow hits zone 1,
Then zone 1 drops production. But zones 2 through 18, they just keep cranking out power at full capacity. They are electrically isolated from the problem. The guide highlights this as a major functional improvement. It's not just about peak power on a perfect cloudless day at noon, it's about maintaining high energy production in real-world conditions where trees and chimneys and clouds actually exist.
That is a huge deal. I feel like shade anxiety is a very real thing for solar owners. You're constantly staring at that one nice oak tree in the front yard, wondering if you should chop it down just to save $5 on your electric bill.
Yeah, and with 18 zones, the answer is likely no, just keep the tree. The panel can handle the partial shade.
I love that. It's tech solving a highly practical problem. Now let's talk about the build quality. The guide mentions the frame is black anodized aluminum alloy. Is that just fancy marketing talk for painted metal?
It's a bit more scientific than paint. Anodizing is an electrochemical process that actually changes the surface chemistry of the metal itself. It makes it incredibly corrosion resistant and hard. It won't peel or flake off like paint eventually does. And structurally, it's designed to provide real strength. Oh, and for the dimensions, we're looking at 1805 by 1135 by 40 millimeters, weighing in at 22.3 kilograms, or about 49 pounds.
Which is fairly heavy, right?
Actually, it's standard for modern modules. It ensures safety for typical roof loads. These aren't flimsy at all.
But let's be honest, the choice of black anodized is also very intentional for the aesthetics.
Oh, absolutely.
That brings us to the look. I feel like Tesla treats solar panels the way Apple treats phones. They simply refuse to make something ugly.
They really do. The guide describes it as a modern aesthetic. It's an all-black design with a matte finish. But crucially, if you look closely at the surface, there are no visible bus ribbons.
Okay, you're going to have to define bus ribbon for me.
Sure. On a standard solar panel, if you look at the blue or black squares, you usually see these thin silver grid lines running across them. Those are the wires collecting the electrons. They are highly functional, but they make the panel look very industrial, like a piece of machinery bolted to your house.
And Tesla just got rid of them.
They hid them. The conductive adhesive layout is designed to eliminate those visible wires on the front, so it really just looks like a smooth, dark sheet of glass.
And no visible fasteners either, right?
Right. All the mounting hardware is tucked underneath. They sit about 1.57 inches off the roof, which is extremely low profile.
That is tight. I've seen some systems that look like they're hovering a foot above the shingles on metal stilts. It looked like a science fair project gone wrong.
Exactly. This is meant to blend in. And here is the key insight from the guide. This design isn't just about vanity. It actually impacts the installation process.
How so? Like, is it faster?
The guide claims these panels install 33% quicker than other panels on the market.
33%.
Yeah.
That is a massive difference in labor time. How are they doing that? Less material.
Spot on. They use 25% less aluminum rail. And here is the metric that really matters for a homeowner, especially if you're worried about leaks. They require up to 15% fewer roof penetrations.
Fewer holes in the roof.
Precisely. Every single time you drill into a roof, you're creating a potential, however small, risk of a leak down the line. By using less rail material and requiring fewer mounting points, they are preserving the structural integrity of your roof. So the Apple approach of sleek integration actually results in a better, safer installation, and they have universal compatibility with shingle, tile, metal, and flat roofs.
That's a great point. It's not just about looking cool. It's about drilling fewer holes in the thing that keeps the rain out. Speaking of keeping the rain and everything else out, let's talk durability. The guide calls out the operating temperature range. It's from minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 185 degrees Fahrenheit.
Which is an incredible range for any electronic device.
I mean, who wants to be on a roof at 185 degrees? That sounds like an absolute nightmare. Is that even a real-world temperature?
Well, hopefully you aren't hanging out on the roof at that temperature. But your panels certainly are. Think about a black asphalt roof in mid-July. The ambient air might only be 95, but the surface temperature can easily cook an egg. Dark surfaces just absorb heat.
And heat notoriously destroys electronics.
It does. It increases resistance and degrades the materials over time. And conversely, in a deep freeze like minus 40, materials contract and become incredibly brittle. This range ensures the panels don't just survive those extremes, but keep producing power without cracking or delaminating.
And they have the official certifications to back that up, right?
Yes, they meet the IEC 61730 and IEC 61216 standards. We don't need to get bogged down in the alphabet soup of code numbers, but those are the global benchmarks for safety and reliability.
Now, durability is one thing, but longevity is another. The guide mentions a 25-year warranty. That seems pretty standard for the industry, but is there anything special about the fine print here?
There is. It's a performance guarantee. Tesla isn't just saying, we promise the glass won't shatter. They are guaranteeing that after 25 years, the panels will still be producing 80 to 85% of their original output.
So it's not like they just fall off a cliff at year 20.
No. All solar panels naturally degrade slightly over time. It's just the physics of silicon. But this warranty implies a very predictable, gradual decline. And the guide notes that the real-world lifespan is expected to be 25 to 30 plus years. You are looking at decades of reliable power.
Okay, let's pivot to the part everyone is waiting for, the economics. Because usually, when you hear Tesla and premium in the same sentence, you assume it's the most expensive option available. What does the guide say about the actual cost?
This is where we need to distinguish between the product lines again. The Tesla solar roof, the tiles, is very expensive, starting around $60 per square foot. But these standard panels, they're actually priced surprisingly competitively. The guide lists traditional solar pricing generally falling between $2.90 to $3.50 per watt installed.
And Tesla fits right into that range.
They do. In fact, Tesla has historically tried to undercut the market by streamlining their sales process. And the guide highlights a really interesting statistic about why solar is often so expensive in the U.S.
Lay it on me.
Soft costs. Specifically, sales and marketing. For many traditional solar companies, up to 18% of the final price you pay is just the cost of them selling the system to you.
Wow. So nearly 1/5 of the bill is just paying for the knock on the door, the flyer in the mail, or the Facebook ad.
Exactly. That pays for the sales commission and the marketing overhead. Tesla's model relies heavily on their existing brand recognition and online ordering. You go to the site, type in your address, and order it almost like a pizza. That allows them to shave off a massive chunk of that 18% overhead.
That makes total sense. You really don't need to market a Tesla product as hard as you need to market Bob's generic solar. But then you have the add-ons. The guide talks a lot about the Powerwall.
The Powerwall is totally key to their whole ecosystem. We are looking at the Powerwall 3 now, which generally costs between $14,500 and $16,500 per unit.
That is a very steep add-on. Why would someone drop 15 grand on the battery if they're just trying to save a few bucks on their monthly electric bill?
Two main reasons: energy independence and rate arbitrage. It pairs perfectly with the new panels, especially the Powerwall 3, since it has an integrated inverter for DC-coupled installs.
Wait, explain the rate arbitrage part.
So, the guide explains that if you have poor net metering rates, meaning the utility company pays you absolute pennies for the excess solar you send back to the grid during the day, but then turns around and charges you full price to buy power at night, then solar without a battery often doesn't make financial sense. You need to store your own daytime solar power to use at night.
So in that specific case, the battery isn't just a luxury toy for blackouts. It's actually the only way to make the math work.
Exactly. And obviously there are government incentives to help with that.
Right, the 30% federal solar tax credit.
Exactly. And importantly, that credit applies to both the eligible solar panels and the Powerwall. That takes a very significant bite out of that upfront cost.
So let's talk about the return on investment. What kind of actual savings are we looking at here?
Well, the guide estimates annual savings around $1,500 for an average home. Over the 25-year life of the system, that's roughly $50,000 to over $100,000 in total savings.
That is serious money. I mean, that's a college fund or a very nice boat.
It is. And for some homes, depending on the exact setup, it's entirely possible to reach near zero electric bills, minus those unavoidable fixed utility connection fees, of course.
Okay, so the money makes sense in the long run. But let's say I'm sold. How do I know what to actually buy? I can't just call them up and say, give me 3 solar panels, please. The guide mentions something called the 20% rule.
This is a fantastic practical tip for anyone sizing a system, regardless of what brand you go with. The 20% rule suggests you should design your system to produce 20% more than your average annual consumption.
Why the buffer? Just in case I decide to buy a hot tub next year.
I mean, maybe, but mostly because real life happens. Panels age, dust settles on the glass, wiring has natural resistance losses, and some years are just cloudier than others. If you use 10,000 kilowatt hours a year and you build a system that produces exactly 10,000, you will almost certainly come up short by year 3 or 4.
And then you're stuck paying the utility bill again, which totally defeats the purpose.
Exactly. Size it for 12,000 instead. That buffer ensures you stay at net zero even as the system ages slightly over the decades.
That's smart. Better to have it and not need it. The guide also breaks down sizing for air conditioning, which I know is a huge power hog. I didn't realize how much roof real estate AC actually eats up?
Oh, it is usually the biggest electrical load in the house by far. The guide breaks it down nicely. A single window unit might need 2 to 3 panels just to cover its consumption. A mini split system, maybe 4 to 8 panels. But if you have central AC, you are looking at 10 to 18 panels solely to cover that cooling load.
Wow, so for a typical, say, 2,000 square foot house with central air, what's the total damage? How many panels are we talking?
You're typically looking at 16 to 22 panels total for a house that size. That creates roughly a 6 to 8 kilowatt system.
Okay, that feels manageable. That fits on a normal suburban roof. But here's the question that always nags at me with roof stuff. What if the roof itself leaks? Not because of the panels, but just because roofs get old. If I have a 25-year warranty on my shiny new panels, but my shingles only have 10 years of life left, am I in trouble?
This is a classic what-if scenario, and the guide addresses this specifically. Tesla offers a panel removal and reinstallation service.
Oh, really? How does that work?
It's surprisingly streamlined. You just request it directly through the Tesla app. They come out, take the panels off, and stack them safely. You get your roofer to replace the shingles or fix the leak, and then Tesla comes right back and reinstalls the whole system.
Is it free?
No, it's not free. The guide says the cost is generally in the low thousands, so it is an expense you have to plan for, but it's a managed process. You aren't left frantically trying to find a random contractor willing to touch proprietary Tesla hardware, which can be an absolute nightmare.
That's really good to know. Just having the service available is a feature in itself. What about upgrades? Let's say you have an old solar system, maybe from 10 or 12 years ago, and you want these fancy new cascading cells. Should you swap them out?
The expert advice here from Green Attic is generally no.
Really? Even with the massive efficiency gains of the new tech?
The labor cost to rip out old, perfectly working panels and put in new ones almost always eats up the efficiency gains. You're basically throwing away working silicon.
So what should you do if you need more power?
Expand. Add a Powerwall to maximize what you have. Or, the guide suggests installing a second separate Tesla system alongside your old one to increase capacity.
Oh, so just run two separate systems on the same house.
Exactly. It increases your total capacity without wasting the massive investment you already made a decade ago.
I really like that approach. Don't replace, just augment. So we've covered the tech, the look, the durability, the money, and the practicalities. It is time for the final verdict. Based on this Green Attic Buyer's Guide, are the new Tesla solar panels actually worth it?
If we look objectively at the evidence provided, the answer is yes, but with a very specific buyer profile in mind.
Define the profile for me.
They are worth it if you value 3 specific things. First, the sleek aesthetic. You really want that all-black, hidden hardware look on your house. Second, performance and shade. That 18-zone tech is a legitimate differentiator if you have trees or chimneys casting shadows. And third, the ecosystem. You want the slick app, the Powerwall integration, and the overall simplicity of having one brand managing your entire energy setup.
And who are they not for?
If your only goal is the absolute lowest upfront price per watt, if you don't care what it looks like on the roof and you just want the cheapest electricity theoretically possible, you should probably get quotes from local installers to compare. You might find generic panels for less that still do the basic job.
So you are definitely paying a premium, but you are getting a genuinely premium product, specifically regarding the shade handling and the build quality.
Precisely. And the 25-year performance guarantee really backs that up.
It seems like Tesla is finally moving past just the brand hype phase of solar and actually delivering some serious hardware functional improvements with these cascading cells.
I completely agree. It's a real shift from treating solar as a neat gadget to treating it as reliable domestic infrastructure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've covered a ton of numbers today: efficiency ratings, install costs, temperature ranges. But I want to leave you with a thought from the guide that really stuck with me.
What's that?
The guide mentions that going 100% solar is entirely possible, not just a pipe dream, but a literal math problem you can solve today with the right sizing and a battery.
That's true. It's completely achievable right now.
And when you ask, is it worth it, we almost always default to thinking about dollars and cents. But I want you to think about the value of detaching yourself from the grid's unpredictability entirely. We see rolling outages. We see massive unexpected rate hikes. What is the actual price tag on peace of mind?
That really is the ultimate question here.
What is it worth to know that no matter what happens to the utility wires down the street, your lights stay on? Is that just an appliance, or is that independence?
I think for a lot of people looking at this tech, that independence is the real product they are buying.
Definitely something for you to mull over the next time you look up at your roof. That's it for today's deep dive into Tesla's new solar panels. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone.